Welcome to another video from Between CAD Classes. In this video, we're going to take a look at the creation of a mechanical part in Autodesk Fusion 360. This is the particular part that we're going to work on, and I'm going to begin by creating the 96 by 64 millimeter base, and then I'll work from there. So here in Fusion 360, the first thing I want to do is make sure my document settings are correct. So I will expand document settings. Currently my units are set to inches. I'm going to select the edit button and change this to millimeters for this particular exercise, then click OK. The other thing I always like to make sure is to come down and select the gear here on the status bar and make sure that it is capturing the design history so I can go back and modify the part. So once again, I will begin by creating my base sketch. I'll go ahead and sketch on the horizontal plane here. And of course there's several different ways I can draw this rectangle. I can put one of the corners at the origin. I like to center my shapes about the origin, so I'll just simply start creating the rectangle. I'll put in 96 for the width. Then I will tab over and put in 64 for the depth this way. Then to center it, I will add in another dimension from one of the sides to the center origin point. And then I'll simply select the overall dimension of 96 and then put in /2 so that it's always half the width. Then I'll do the same thing for the depth. I'll pick one of the horizontal lines and the origin point, click to place the dimension, then once again I'll select the 64 and put in /2. Just to illustrate why I like doing that, if the part were to change and become another size, you can see that it will always stay centered since I used a formula. I'll go ahead and finish sketch, and checking my original drawing, this base has a thickness of 16 millimeters, so I'll choose my extrude command. I can manually drag the arrow up, and I can go ahead and type in 16 and click OK to create my first shape. This shape does have a cutout, and I could have included that cutout in my original sketch here, but I prefer to do that as a separate feature. That makes it a lot easier to go back and edit or even delete if I decide I want to do that. So I will begin a new sketch on the top of this surface. As you can see, it flipped my screen around, so I'll just use the arrows on my view cube to reorient that. And I'm just going to use my line command, and I'll start with a horizontal line. Then I will click and drag off of that endpoint to create a tangent arc. I'll bring it down and then draw back to the right side here. Then I'll come back and add my dimensions. So checking my original drawing here, this has a radius of 8, so I'll place the dimension there. The cut is centered on the part. So one of the ways I like to do this is by setting up a driven dimension first. So I will dimension the depth of this part, and it's going to tell me that it would over constrain this, but I can create a driven dimension instead. I'm going to go ahead and accept that. So that just means that this is a dimension that cannot be used to modify the part. But I like to get that on screen because that then allows me to place the dimension to the center of this cut. And once again, I can click on the depth dimension and divide that by 2. Then it looks like I just need to locate the center of this 20 millimeters off of the right side. And now I have my sketch, so I'll go ahead and finish. Switch back to the home view, extrude this, and I'll just bring it down through the part. I could accept it just like this. I'm going to go ahead and change my extent type to through all, and then click OK. Next I'm going to work on the back feature. So I'll pull up my drawing here, and you can see that this back feature has a total height of 64. So subtracting the base height of 16, that's going to give me 48 millimeters. And you can see that it's going to have a rounded edge with a radius of 48. I could either include that in my original sketch, or I could do that with the fillet command. I'm going to opt to do that with the fillet command. So back here in Fusion then, I am going to rotate around and sketch on this back surface here. Then I will create a rectangular shape coming off of it. I'm going to use my collinear constraint to make the side of the base collinear with the side of the sketch there. And then I'm going to add in that dimension. Once again, I can either put in that dimension of 48, or since my original drawing gave me the dimension to the very bottom of the base, I can do that as well. Then I can finish that one and extrude. So it's going to go back into the part, checking my original sketch, a thickness of 16. So that would be negative 16 based on the direction of my sketch here. Then I can come in with the fillet command and select the edge and set the radius to 48. That way I didn't have to actually do that in the sketch mode. Again, one of the advantages of this is it makes it a little bit easier if I want to go and edit the fillet. I've got it down here in my history, and I can right click and edit it if I want to make a change to that value. Alright, so a couple more features here. I'll rotate around to this side of the part, and I'm going to start by creating the rectangular extrusion, and then I'm going to make the semicircle cutout a separate feature. So, looking at the detailed drawing here, I can see that this feature is going to be 40 millimeters wide by 28 millimeters tall. And looking at the top view, I can see that it's going to be a depth of 42. So once again, back here in Fusion, I will create a sketch on the surface here. I will create a rectangle that starts at that corner, and the width was going to be 40. Then I'll tab to my height. And the height was 28. And then I'll go ahead and finish my sketch and extrude that a distance of negative 42 into the part. Again, I could have included that circular cutout, but I find it easier to do it as a separate feature, and more importantly, easier to go back and edit later or delete if I want to. So I'm going to sketch on this surface once again. So once again, we'll pull up the original drawing here, and I can see that the semicircle shape has a radius of 12 or a diameter of 24. So back here in Fusion, I will create a center diameter circle at the midpoint of this top line, and I will give it a diameter of 24. Now I could go ahead and use my trim command and trim up the top half of that, but it's not actually necessary. If I go ahead and finish and use my extrude tool, you can see that I'm able to just pick that bottom half, and then I can go ahead and cut it all the way through the part. Once again, I usually prefer to change my extent type to all when doing this. And then I can click OK. Now I've got one feature left, pretty easy to do from here. Again, checking our original drawing, I can see that this triangular feature is going to be extruded at a depth of 12. So back in Fusion, I will do one more sketch on this surface, and very simply draw a line to connect the two endpoints. Then finish it, and then extrude, and again this one is going to be a depth of negative 12. And then I'll select my home button, and there I can see my completed part. That concludes this Fusion 360 tutorial. If you found it helpful, please give it a like, please subscribe, and keep watching for additional videos. Thanks for watching.